Okay, this public hearing is now called to order at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, March 12 of 2019. This hearing is being held as required by the provisions of Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth, an act relative to the protection of the wetlands as most recently amended. Notice of the time and place of this hearing was published in the Advocate on March 7, 2019. It's also posted in the town clerk's office. This is being recorded for broadcast. Persons wishing to be heard will be called in the following order. So our first order of business is to approve the minutes from February 26. Thank you for sending those out, Joanne. Anybody have any comments, corrections, suggestions?
Motion may be approved as submitted.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? That's unanimous. Thank you, Joanne. Meeting mail. Merrily, doesn't look like we have any meeting mail, does it?
No,
No.
not this week.
Good. Old business. Anybody feeling old out of any business? New business, NOI for Randy Valacha for Main Street, map 7, lot 2B.
You guys want this?
A notice of intent was filed by Randy Valacha for property located at Main Street, map 7, lot 2B. The applicant proposes to construct a single-family dwelling with two-car garage, driveway, a well, and subsurface sewage disposal system with associated filling and grading within the buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland. The applicant is represented by Alan Ewing Engineering Incorporated. Plan name is Sewage Disposal Plan of Land at Main Street. That plan is dated February 13 of this year. Mr. Ewing, the floor is yours.
All right, good evening, I'm Al Ewing, Ewing Engineering, some green cards here.
Thank you.
Yes, Randy has bought this piece of property from Natalie Tripp. And it's about 3 acres. And wetlands in this whole back area here, so we had this all flagged. And we came up with the 100-foot buffer zone here that I've got marked out, and then the 75-foot setback line for any septic system. I also showed a 25-foot area, which I'm calling that a no activity zone. So that's going to be our limit of work property, and I'm showing this silt fence right here in pink. So that's the limit of work we're proposing. So he's going to build a driveway, which I think he's already started this driveway. He went to the site.
Well, we couldn't tell if there was
Oh, okay.
It was there
But I've
because
seen it.
some of it was showing.
Yeah, so that is there. I think he went up maybe to here. And so this is his house. He's got house plans and all of that. And this little dotted line here, because this is an estate lot, rear lot, they call it, so you gotta have a 75-foot setback line from all property lines. So that's why we have to put the house where it is. You can't put it out of the buffer zone. And so I've connected the driveway to the two-car garage. It's a 3-bedroom house, sort of a basic house, but very nice house plans. And I've got the septic system. We did perk test here. It's all beautiful coarse sand, deep as you want to go. It's 1 inch and 2-minute material. So I've got the septic system here, conventional septic system. And he's going to put a well in out there. And we've got the leaching trench over there that I've shown, and I guess we've got we call it a public well because it services the church building. So that's what this big radius is over here. And we've got another well on that side. So that's basic proposal, and we're going to do some filling. He's going to have a walkout on the house, but we're going to do some filling around everything there. 'Cause it does slope off quite a bit.
It's good though that most of the septic is outside of the buffer zone. There's a little sliver of it that's in the buffer zone, but most of it's out.
That's right, yes, yeah.
That's the way we prefer. Merrily, I'll let you lead with questions if you have any.
You know, it seems pretty straightforward, especially the 25-foot no activity zone is very
can, but,
Appreciate it.
I'd like to see
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it looks pretty good.
How much filling and grading in terms of the amount of soil coming into you expect?
Didn't actually calculate a number, I don't think, but, we are gonna be excavating to get the solar in, so.
Mhm.
Like I said, he's gonna have a walkout here, you go from nothing and then you go
Right.
6 feet of excavation, so it might not be a whole lot of imported material.
So we'll certainly ask anything that gets dug up or is brought in for the fill and grading, certainly be outside the buffer zone.
Oh, sure.
Perhaps like if I can.
Mhm.
And he's already got big piles out there.
Yeah, so
So
those
it's,
piles towards this area, what's the story with those big piles of dirt that are there?
Is that new or is that?
They were there
Well, they
Saturday.
was there Saturday,
Oh,
yeah. I would guess they probably came from when he was breaking up the driveway there, but
oh, perhaps. I didn't think he was putting anything down there.
He just tried to, maybe he's just been thinking he was getting it out of the way.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately, it's too far out of the way and right up, very close to the flag line.
But I think he has been cleaning up the property, there was a tremendous amount.
Yeah, there's still a truck back there.
There's a boat.
just junk.
Boat back
There's certainly a truck there.
There's more than one.
Yeah.
It's 4 boats.
Really?
Oh, was there? 4? I saw one big one.
It's like the three of us were looking at different properties. Anybody else with questions for Mr. Muir?
Yeah, just, so Mr. Hewing, on that silt fence,
Yes.
we've been seeing a lot of, as you know, these projects usually go longer than intended, and so I'm only asking that you try to maintain that silt fence as, with its integrity throughout the project.
Sure, that's
'Cause we've-
reasonable.
Yeah, lately we've had some concerns with some of the conditions of the silt fence at the end of the project.
Right,
That could,
as time goes on.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we denied a COC a couple of weeks ago.
Oh.
For that reason.
Hmm.
He must have known I was coming too, because I warned him a couple times about that stuff. But anyway.
Yeah, so we've just been noticing that lately, so just maintain that.
Mhm.
They're good ones and they're bad ones, and the projects tend to be good.
Yeah. Are you planning to do retaining walls yet? Is there any need for that at this point?
I don't think so. I remember seeing a whole lot of rock, test pits there, some property, we got tons of stuff that you couldn't use. I could give them some.
Ah,
Well, if he doesn't need them, no bother.
Yeah, no, I don't think, you never know, sometimes when you get to the finished grading, and I have a slightly different idea.
Yeah, go ahead and get that.
The idea is to fill around these buildings and have a walkout there. I think it all works pretty good the way I did. Finished front doors.
I'll entertain a motion is an issue of positive order of conditions with the one stipulation that the dirt piles that are there get moved out of the buffer zone, and whatever else is coming in for soil excavation also stays out of the buffer zone. Any motion to that effect? Motion. All right, so motion from Heidi, second from you,
Second.
Everett, then? Any further discussion on this? Marley, any other conditions you'd like there?
No, I'll highlight the maintain the silt fence.
Okay,
And,
okay. In that case, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed, abstaining? That's unanimous. All right. Thank you, Alan.
Should I stay for the next one?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Quite a short meeting anyway, you stay for the whole thing. Okay,
I have to get work.
thanks for printing these large enough that I don't have to put my glasses on.
Dang it.
Sense of your audience, Joanne, right? Order of conditions extension, Dean and Angela Francois, so 293 Perry Hill Road, a request for an extension to an existing order of conditions, file number SE 001-0452, the property located at 293 Perry Hill Road. The applicant proposed to construct a concrete foundation, place a two-bedroom trailer on foundation, install a septic system, private well, drive, utilities, and fill and grade. The applicant is represented by Allen Ewing Engineering Incorporated. That planning is sewage disposal plan of land at Perry Hill Road. That plan is dated October 26th of 2009, revised February 14th of 2019. What is yours if you wanna
All right,
bring us up to date?
yeah, what my, I just got that sheet two here, which,
Hang it on this maybe?
okay.
Wanna tuck it
There's a
into
clip up there.
Great.
Who's on the next page?
that? I'll get my fingers.
Yeah, I've got the 20 scale sheet here. Yes, this project was started 10 years ago. He's been trying to, he had the trailer sitting over here when we started this. And he has, he's driven down there recently. He's got the concrete slab in and he's got the trailer sitting on that slab. So he's got that all done. He's got this stone retaining wall in, and he's got the fill all around the trailer park. And he held off putting the well in because, geez, if this thing falls, breaks in half when I'm trying to move it, I've wasted putting in a well, so it didn't. And so now he wants to finish the project and put the well in his mix, and then we'll put this in and things dry a little bit more. And the driveway, he hasn't put the driveway in yet. I think there is a culvert over here. that
Yeah, he mentioned, he showed that to us.
Yeah. So that's basically it. There was also concern about natural heritage, and I got a response back from them. I don't know, did they send you a copy as well?
They usually do, but I didn't see one.
Yeah, I talked to them. Believe it or not, the lady who signed the original one 10 years ago, I called the number and she answered the phone.
Ah,
That never happens. But she said, oh, no problem, just send us and make sure there's nothing changed. And she said, no, we're good to go, and I've got the paperwork back up. So I think, so we're waiting to get this extension so that he can finish it, and that way it would help there. We had to upgrade the septic system. It's just the tank has to be a two-compartment tank now, and they want a vent on the end of the leaching field. Just minor stuff like that. Kind of,
pretty wet there, so that's all that looks like from, based on the contours, everything's coming up.
oh, absolutely, there's gonna be like 4 feet of fill there at least. Needs all of that.
So it's a raised system,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
because it was mucky.
Mhm.
It's pretty wet when I was out there.
Yeah.
Like that everywhere.
Yes, yes, yes. Spring is coming.
So, two-bedroom trailers with a septic is designed for two.
Yes.
Keystone Drive. Yeah, very nice.
The house behind it is his too.
He lives at the end
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
and his brother lives on that side.
Yeah, but there is someone behind here too. Right?
Somebody owns a back.
Or property.
I don't know if they ever built the house back there.
There's a trailer on that property.
In the way back, yeah?
That's Priscilla Tripp's property.
It is?
In the, it's right here, I think.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
Also
Okay.
height.
I'll take your word for it.
Here, and there's a long driveway out to Perry Hill.
And how far
Road.
down the Perry Hill is it?
It's almost into Rochester.
Yeah, it's right at the
Yeah,
bottom.
yeah.
If you go down this lane right here, that takes you to a big farm that they just built in the house.
You see those properties.
Yeah, yeah, he's
Oh,
calling the Mayflower guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, we saw a trailer full of old bags of bread in down there Saturday morning.
Got quite some heritage
Mr. Hewen, there's quite a bit of a drop there from where the trailer is gonna go to, you know, close to the road at the end where the proposed stone and boulder retaining wall is.
Yes.
What's your plan for that grade there?
Well, it's already got some fill in there, but it's kind of a little rough. At least when I walk it, there was some snow and stuff there then, but it's going to be graded off, basically like I've got there.
3 feet or so?
Well, yeah, we got a 109 around the building and it goes
Yeah.
down to 106.
What erosion control, just grass? Or just grass over there?
It's going to be all lawn when we're done with this. He's got the funding to finish it, so that's his goal now.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to issue an extension for the existing order of conditions and put a time limit on it of 3 years. I mean, that's usually what it is, but let's make that clearer. So, 3-year extension. Issue the extension on the existing order of conditions.
Extension of existing order. Oh, these were these specials? Yeah. Oh, okay.
What's that?
There are originally special conditions on the first order conditions. Notes to contractor,
So,
system components marked with magnetic marking tape. Do you have all those, Mr. Lee?
I've got the outer condition, sure.
Yeah, okay, reach an area 10 feet from property lines, 20 feet from cellar wall, 4 feet from above the water table, 100 feet from all wells, and
right,
75-foot minimum from wetlands.
and that's all it is.
That's all that, yeah.
Yep.
That's typical.
All pipe
Well, the
between
well has
dwelling
to
and
be 100
leaching area
feet.
shall have.
Why would they
water
special?
line.
Why were those special conditions?
Well, it's 2009 and everything, I don't
Regional
know.
field.
Sure.
Can
2009.
anything be on it or go over it, or does it have to go?
Oh,
Just be lawn.
Yeah, we're going to just.
I know, but can it, like, you know, like, shed on it, or can you drive on it?
It's not recommended, it's not designed to what they call H20 loading, so you wouldn't want to really be driving over it. It could be designed for that.
well, it is already.
Usually when you get it up on the
Yeah,
ground,
it's-
nobody's gonna
Yeah.
drive up there anyway.
Yeah.
so-
Right.
Definitely don't need 5 copies.
We,
Compaction on top of the leaching field.
we have put them under parking lots and so forth.
Yeah, no, I,
Oh, really?
it's pretty basic stuff.
They have to be
Is it
built
very-
to be
is it
suited for that
a lot more
application,
expensive?
not in this case.
Right.
They're a lot more expensive.
Yeah, they have different units that
Yeah.
are maybe, yeah.
And
There's piping and everything underneath there that you wouldn't want to crush.
10 years ago, yeah.
So we have a motion on the floor from Heidi. Do we have a second?
A second.
Any further discussion? In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? That's unanimous. So, thank you for that.
Signature.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
And our last one, we have an RDA for 88 Wing Lane LLC.
I think
they're outside.
Is that
John
him?
Holman?
Is it Coleman?
Come in.
Hi. How are you? He even has his own.
Only thing I find, how did he find a place that has 1 and 2 for
Oh,
grades?
well. All right, so while you're setting up, you can sign documents.
They're just big business.
That's the Blancha.
Right. Yeah. You're gonna send them around after?
They wanna do them now or later.
Did you want to read them for?
I used to work while my hands are moving.
So while he's setting up, I'll read the hearing. The request for determination of applicability was filed by CVE North America Incorporated for property located at 88 Wing Lane, Acushnet, Mass. Lot 14, lot 21.22. The applicant wants to know whether the work depicted on the plans are subject to the Wetlands Protected, do this again in English, to the Wetlands Protection Act The applicant is represented by Atlantic Design Engineers Incorporated. Plan name is Site Plan of Solar Array. That plan is dated February 18th of 2019. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christopher King with Atlantic Design Engineers. As noted, I'm here on behalf of CVE North America for a request for a determination of applicability, hopefully a negative determination of a project that the commission has seen in the past. That these two projects were permitted separately, but are now under common ownership as CVE North America is an owner-operator who intends to operate this facility for 40 years or so. It was back in 2014 when the commission first saw this project. They determined that although the work was within the jurisdictional area, the project as designed would not impose adverse impacts to the adjacent resource areas, and issued a negative determination. Since that point in time, obviously the project has not moved forward on this half. This is obviously currently built, and so that's why we are here before you again this evening, hopefully to again receive a negative determination under the RDA process, essentially for the exact same project. There are some minor changes which I'll just step you through, one of which was on our option, and it was to add the capability to provide battery storage. The battery storage in essence is used to help stabilize the system and try to maximize its peak operating capacity. The battery storage units themselves are shown on the detail sheet, and I actually have some handouts because there were some questions during our site visit. I have 4 of them if you wanted to pass them around, but they're representative. It may not be the exact make and model, but they're representative of the technology that we're looking to implement. In the cabinet itself, it's basically almost like a server cabinet. And most of these cabinets that we've seen, again, it's different depending on the make, but some cabinets have a self-contained storage, if you will. There's very limited liquid associated with the battery technology, but in the event something did spill, it's typically contained within the cabinet itself. As part of the planning board process, which I would like to just go on the record, we received our planning board basically reapproval last Thursday, and the remainder of the changes, other than the implementation of the battery storage, came through comments that were received as part of the planning process. And so one of the comment letters we received, which is pertinent to conservation as well, was in regards to the detention pond area. The whole entire site, as you know, comes from the road and drains down the hill towards the resource. The resource being a very defined edge at this point in time, with even some stone walls intermediate and going through it due to the previous agricultural uses out here. The Board of Health, Joe had just asked us to make sure that the bottom of the basins maintain 12 inches of separation from groundwater to make sure they drained and didn't promote mosquito activity. We provided the test pit data. I worked with Steve Poole, the record engineer, and Joe issued a letter basically saying the information demonstrates the bottom of the basin is 12 inches above groundwater. The remainder of the comments were basically from the building department, with Jim in conjunction with Chief Gallagher, and it was a letter where Jim had asked for some diversification in the species. As you know, as you can see, not a lot of them, but some of the arborvitae out there have been subject to deer activity. And so we've added notes to the plan calling this coniferous plantings. On the berm detail, again, calling them coniferous plantings, and on the coniferous planting detail, calling out that the coniferous plantings shall be deer-resistant hedge screening varieties, and we give them 3 types that are all cultivars: deer-resistant, green giant, blue spruce, and then Spartan juniper. But we've also added a note understanding that the berm extends into your jurisdiction and you like to see native species. We just specify that any plantings within 100 feet of the wetland area shall be native species approved by the Conservation Commission. And again, there were some questions out on site, and so, you know, again, these aren't exactly what we would use, but just so you guys know, Ipswich, Mass is a pretty informative, the commission has a pretty informative website, and they just had a list of deer-resistant plants that were native to Massachusetts. Granted, they're on the North Shore. This would be kind of representative of, you know, what we would expect to see come in. Not much substantive matter there in this. So, you know, the intent with the note is to offer flexibility based on availability to promote diversification as well in the species, and try to soften the look, if you will. One of the other changes, while I'm on the detail sheet,
Oh, is it? Sorry, I'm late.
3 years.
Okay, yeah, so just check back with you during the week, or?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Thanks again.
Speaking back to the battery storage compartments, again, the fire chief kind of reiterated not a concern, but just a question, you know, what about spill containment? And so, understanding we haven't selected the exact cabinet, that wouldn't happen until when we start the procurement process of selecting and buying materials prior to the building permit. We've added a housekeeping pad, which has what they call PLB grooves, positive limiting barriers, and they're the same grooves you see on the edge of like a fueling pad at a gas station. And that offers kind of a first line of defense. So as part of the planning condition, we are required to, prior to the issuance of the building permit, submit the final specifications just to demonstrate to the fire chief that he's not going to have an issue with any kind of chemicals coming out of the batteries. So we would think that would be an adequate mechanism as well for the commission. I would, you know, think that the fire chief would be, his interests are in line with your all. So another change, again, speaking to the fire chief's comments, he wanted to increase the radius, the turning radius on this bend here, and this was previously 8 feet wide. He wanted 16 feet, but after talking with him and the equipment he anticipated bringing down there, we kind of came to a happy medium, and we settled on 12 feet with 2-foot grass shoulders. And then we've provided a hammerhead turnaround. And again, you know, that's consistent with the original design. We feel like these changes are pretty minor, and you know, hopefully the information presented demonstrates that the project moving forward certainly would not present adverse impacts to the resource area. I have also a small set of plans in case you would like those, and it's buried in my stack of paperwork, but I did bring the green card if you want that, as far as our mailing to DEP Southeast. You can provide those. I'll dig that out in a second. But here's the small set. Letter would have been real jammed, so hopefully 11 by 17 works, but if not, let me know.
Yeah, no, hopefully they'll be right for that.
So I'd like to open it up for questions, if anyone has any questions. I know, I think most of you were on the site walk, and I know most of you were on the commission for the last project, so I don't think I missed anything as far as the changes or anything that we had for planning.
So Heidi, one of the things I asked about on Saturday, and I got an answer for, so the solar panels are gonna be sitting on concrete pads with posts, and then basically, so they won't be doing there's really not a lot of digging happening.
No.
Most of it's the pinky pond area in the back, otherwise these things are sitting on pads basically.
Yeah, it's a ballast pad. You know, again, they'll do the pricing, I'm not sure if it's gonna be precast or cast in place, but again, it's pretty minimal. It's, for lack of a better term, it's just a weight the thing's down for uplift.
Is that, sorry. Is that a separate one for each post, or is it like a
You know,
line of them? With all the
It's
posts on?
where the foundation supports are, and so it depends on the racking system, so I couldn't give you an exact number, because it ultimately will depend on the racking system and how many pier supports, you know, the structural guys that do the racking systems,
So
but.
more than one on the slab?
Yeah, it wouldn't be one, I believe, now, I believe it would not be one long contiguous one. It would just be, you know, each fixed support, if you will have a required weight at each support, and then depending on the spacing, I would expect to see a bunch of these down the line. I do know that preliminary testing was done back in 2014, and due to the presence of ledge, which, you know, it was preliminary testing, so it wasn't all encompassing, but preliminary. That's why they chose to go to the ballast route. I do know, again, these guys are owners for 40 years. They're not looking just to permit and push it through and sell it. So they will do some value engineering for what works best with their program and their maintenance. So they may do some additional exploration, and if they find they wanted to do something with helical piles or something of that nature, which would be pretty limited, you know, they would of course notify the commission if they got to that point. But again, that's down the line right prior to the building permit process.
So what's between them?
The ballast, if you will, it's just gonna remain the metal that it is.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't intend on doing any regrading or, you know, any reseeding or anything like that. There are, obviously within the woodland areas, we are gonna have to clear and grub, so we will reseed those areas, but it's just gonna be basically a lawn.
Oh, look at
You know, I don't have an exact panel count. And you know, I explained this last night in the town of Hopkinton. It's a common question, and everyone wants to know the megawatts, but really, every site's different. And they'll go out and they'll do shade-specific analysis on tree cover. They'll figure out the efficiency, and not so much applicable here, but when you're in a heavily forested site, we may show this, but they may run the helioscope along this edge and figure out, you know, I need another 30 feet. It doesn't make sense to pay to put in a panel that's only going to generate peak for 5% of the day, and so they may pull it back themselves. But essentially, we're looking to permit a footprint, if you will, with the setbacks, the restrictions, any special conditions, buffers in place.
What are your plans for the wetlands? Are they gonna do anything with them, or are they gonna,
I mean, not that I know, I mean,
there was talk,
what can you,
when this first came up, there was talk of the conservation restriction on it.
so I know that that is somewhat in part with natural heritage, which will still have to notify and go through those steps. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that that suggestion came as part of that process. Natural heritage to designate what will be valuable and important to the turtles. Whether it be transferring it or, like you said, a restrictive use easement or something to that respect, we're certainly going to be in continuous talks with you once we reinitiate the natural heritage process.
So you got a letter from them, or they got a letter from them originally? Natural Heritage?
You know, I'm not sure. I was talking with Steve Poole about this today, and he was trying to look through his files, but he didn't think that he received any correspondence from them. I know he lives right near their office, and I believe he went in and met with them, but I don't know if he has written correspondence. So when we redo the process, we'll make sure that everything is memorialized and submitted to you so that, you know, you're on the same page with them. And if that's what they intend to do, then, you know, that I know that's what was recommended by Natural Heritage. And, you know, because obviously the turtles aren't interested in baking in the sun in the solar field, they want the woods.
Yeah.
So I know that, I don't believe, again, I'm not privy to all the specifics, but, you know, it's obviously wet from here back. I haven't seen it overall to see if there's any bumps or anything like that, but I would think that, you know, the remainder of the site, I'm gonna guess, is probably not buildable.
No, I don't think so.
So if that's the case, then I wouldn't, you know, I would see if that's the path of least resistance as opposed to putting in turtle barriers and doing all sorts of other things, or putting monitors on them, then I would think that they would be certainly amenable to that,
Yeah?
so.
Is it a field or is it
It's partially a field. There's a pretty skinny tree line shown in here. It's tough
And
to
there's
see.
there's a couple of old barn structures over there.
Yeah, there's
This is all, used to be Garcia.
yeah, like the tree line is here roughly, comes back out and down. And then the barn, the existing barn structures are over here on this side.
Yeah, and that overhead photo you have on the other side's pretty illustrative too,
Yeah.
of the site.
oh,
habitat, very narrow, but even it's a pretty thin tree line in that area. You know, there's some robust pockets, but even then it opens up out back.
And you don't have any problems with the electric company, with the utility station or whatever it is that they have there?
No. No. Not to my knowledge, I mean, you know, not to my knowledge, I haven't seen anything in my review of files.
And the one that's existing, that's doing fine, right? Hasn't been any problems with it?
I don't think so, I mean, we were before the planning board, which was advertised. And so we did have some abutters show up, but there were only 2 or 3 of them. The gentleman, I forget his name, but he lives back here, he walks his dogs and polices the area, basically. And another lady, I don't remember her name, but I think she lived here or here. But they didn't have any issues with it, you know, they noted that some of the plantings here are a little, you know, sparse, like I noted, you know, the little deer got to them, particularly down in the
Oh, yeah,
stretch
I
at
saw
the edge
that.
of the field, you know.
Really sad.
And again, you know, these guys just are new to the area, just, I don't know if it's finalized, but basically at the end of the day, as long as everything goes as planned, they'll assume ownership of both, if they're not already the operator. And again, wanting to be a good corporate neighbor and intending to operate the facility for 40+ years, as the technology changes, they could just, maybe it's as easy as switching out panels or upgrading batteries, and this thing is good for the next 20 years on top of that, so.
Any further questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for negative determination.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? That passes unanimously.
Thank you for your
Yeah,
time, I
Mr.
appreciate
Chairman.
it.
Yeah, thank you.
Merrily, I cannot find the green card anywhere, but I know we scanned it in,
Okay.
but it was hiding in there.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
We'll move on.
And so, like I said, when the natural heritage stuff gets going, I'm sure, I don't know if Steve will do it directly, but you'll get correspondence from one of us, just as a follow-up and see what happens back there. But like I said, I talked to them over the phone. You know, they're basically agreeable, anything the previous developer was, but they didn't know about it, so they just wanted the chance to take a look at it. But I explained more than likely the rest of that's wet. And then, like I said, when the time comes, you know, have at it on the butterfly weed.
Mhm.
Milkweed, yeah. Right there with you.
Well, thank you very much.
No, you're very welcome. If you need any other info, you have my contact info now, so just give me a call.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you for your time.
Good. Next is the agent updates.
Agent updates. What do I have for you? I don't really have much, actually. There's a house going up behind, across the way from the garden. You guys went to the site visit on that. And it's coming along. And I just discovered, like 10 minutes before you guys walked in, that my DEP wetlands layer on the GIS program is not right, so I need to change that. But beyond that, there's, can't think of anything that's pending at the moment.
How was the MAC conference?
Not as good as usual.
Really?
Yeah, they messed up lunch.
What was wrong with it?
The big buffet that they always have,
Yeah.
they didn't have it. They made us go inside the cafeteria and go looking for what you wanted, It was kind of,
Well, I still
what would you say,
it
confusing?
created a lot of
I
hangriness.
was there, I wouldn't know.
What's that?
Did it create a lot of
What
hangriness?
do you mean? Did
It
it
kinda
have packaged
did.
lunches or?
I wasn't
No,
there.
it wasn't that.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that bad, no, but it was, pretty chaotic. It's interesting, because you're walking in the building going, where are the lines? Why aren't there any lines,
Yeah.
And then you figure out, oh, that's why everybody just went. But, and I don't know, the classes I went to were pretty dull, so, but that might just be me, I'm easily bored.
So there was that discussion about when this need of repairing the silt fences, that they were Everett made a comment about putting some money aside for the contractor, was that?
Escrow
was that-
account.
Yeah,
Oh, an escrow account.
you gonna find out a little bit about that?
I'd be happy to, yeah, I have to pick Penny's brain about it, because they do that all the time, planning board. Although lately, I think, instead of money, what they do is hold a lot, so that'll be different. But, yes, I will find out
So
about,
pending any
doing
repairs
that.
that we deem to be necessary before the COC, right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
got
and-
that on it in escrow, is that,
Well,
what is that?
That was, we're going back to Blacksmith Drive now, where we
Right,
approved.
right.
The lot in the back wasn't,
The first
as far as
one,
I'm concerned, it wasn't ready to be approved.
To
The
live a
front
lot,
had grown in,
all the way in the back?
number 8.
oh, the silt fence was sketchy on that one too.
Oh, right, yeah, that was a tall grass,
There's no grass there at all.
No, number 8 Blacksmith.
number 8. Okay, so that, all right, so that's,
Right.
well,
guy
there's
worked
here, and then
for-
there's an empty lot,
You
and
got
then
the right
there's.
for
the-
seven, so.
Or there's one going
The
in.
last one
worked
we
for
went
the
to,
Yes.
Blacksmith Drive.
Yeah.
He worked
Yeah,
for
With the
worked
big
for the
wall.
PCB
With the
company.
Need for the big wall, right?
On the neighboring property was really
Right.
high, so they're gonna put some erosion control there. But that's how that came up, that's how that came up.
Well, that's, would be a perfect thing for the last situation
Yeah,
over on
yeah.
Mattapoisett Road.
Agreed.
Those 2 lots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no grass at all there.
Yeah, no, that's.
And there was some erosion already happening.
Yeah. And yeah, he's never called back. So, my
So, yeah,
guess is
so,
that
so
he's
how
got-
does that work? Does anyone know how that works?
Well, they-
When would we have to deem that? At the time of the, at the request, the RDA?
I don't know, I'll have you look into it, I'm not sure how the process works.
Yeah,
So find
yeah,
out all
I'll
those
find out.
ones, no.
I honestly don't know if it's even legal, if a conservation commission should do that, you know, but I'll find out.
There's plenty of lawyers on the board of the MACC.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just curious, because it came up as a topic.
Yeah,
It's a good one.
okay, yeah, I can't think of anything else pending.
Okay.
You guys have anything?
No updates?
Okay.
Nothing. Profound. So, with that being said, looks like our next meeting is Tuesday, March 26th.
We already have the files.
Okay. 6 o'clock here. If there's no further business for the commission, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
So,
No, we needed a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Hey, meeting adjourned at 6:43 PM.